Hi guys, it's Jennibellie. I have a very quick tips kind of video for you today regarding sealing your journal pages, because it's something that I get asked, and what I get asked also is would you use a gel matte medium or a wet glue kind of thing to seal your journal pages. And to me, I personally wouldn't use a wet glue. I definitely wouldn't use Mod Podge or anything else that is glossy. I wouldn't really, if I was going to pick anything out of that, it would be gel matte medium. But to be honest, I still wouldn't necessarily use that as a sealer, because a sealer to me is something that fuses all your layers together, particularly if it's a journal page like this that has a lot of collage on it, and also stops any of your paints or anything that might be a little bit tacky or sticky adhering to your alternative page, your opposite page. So a sealer to me is something that is going to help prevent that rather than add an additional layer that might actually do that. And a Mod Podge or a glue is something to me that will give that added risk of making your journal pages stick together. So I wouldn't recommend that, but out of any of them I would pick the gel matte medium. Make sure it's matte, not a glossy one, if you do that. So that's number one. Another thing that I often use, that I suppose I should mention in this, that you've probably seen me use before, is I will use Hairspray as a fixative on pastels, on charcoal, on even graphite, because I quite like using big fat graphite sticks now. So I might use the Hairspray to help set that, and then also use an additional sealer, which I'll come to in a little while. But say it's on a page like this where it's got a face just in a bit of pencil, I might just use the Hairspray on that to set that in, to stop that smudging if I want to then carry on creating things over the top. Also, as an alternative, obviously there are more expensive fixatives out there, but Hairspray is, I've never come across something where Hairspray hasn't worked. You might need a couple of layers, let it dry, do it again, but it is pretty much the expensive fixatives costs. I do have them and I might use them on an actual painting, but for my journal I think Hairspray is absolutely fine and it does the job. Now, what also there is on the market is varnishes, more expensive kind of varnishes. Now this golden varnish is, again, it's more for paintings, for things that you really want to last basically for a very long time. So it helps prevent yellowing and aging on your journal pages, and helps put a layer against the sun and things like that that might age your paintings. I wouldn't necessarily use this in my journal, but the good thing about things like this is it has no residue, so it's not going to leave anything that will make your journal pages stick together. I wouldn't recommend a liquid varnish for the reason I mentioned before, unless you find one that, again, will leave no residue. A tip with this, if you spray this, please do it outside, because the particles are so fine. It's not like Hairspray where you think it might only go a little way. This really does go into the atmosphere and it will settle on everything. So don't do it if you've got a nice desk. Use it on a piece of wood or something that you don't mind ruining if you're going to do it inside, but I would recommend definitely outside, otherwise you're going to find little flakes of varnish on your surfaces. Also, what there is beeswax. I bought this one from Ranger because it's a clear one, but you can get, I don't know what I was expecting with this one, if it was going to be any different from the kind of beeswax I use in lip balms and things. It's not. So it's a little bit more expensive than just getting a beeswax from a health food shop or something, but they are generally a little bit more yellow in colour. But generally when you melt it down, any colour is not noticeable on it. I don't particularly like using beeswax. It's a personal preference thing. I do not like the feel of it so much, and what I really don't like is that if you do this on your journal pages and then come to heat something on another journal page, if the heat gets through to the beeswax, of course it's going to reactivate the wax and it will melt again, and what will happen is your journal pages will stick together. I have done it. I'll give you an example. I haven't had them melt together, but for that reason I'm going to have to be very careful with this. So on this page here, the Just Paint page, I have waxed her. I waxed the whole thing just to see. This is my experiments journal, so that's why I did it in here, just to see if I'd like it. I don't really like the feel to it. It's okay. It's just not for me, because particularly with this being a fold over page, if I did that and then say worked on a page near it here and heated it and the heat did go through, it would make that page completely fused together again and it could ruin the page. So again, just be aware of that. Beeswax, you can always reactivate it with heat. But here is my golden rule, or golden, I don't know, my what's the word I'm looking for, my top tip, I guess. This is my secret weapon, that's what I'm looking for. It's my secret weapon now. I do it practically on every single journal page to seal in my pages. Particularly on something, if it's like this, that has a lot of collage on it, because when I'm creating, I just like to do it quickly. You know, you guys probably know I like a glue stick because it's quick, it's easy, but we all know that glue sticks are not the best thing for longevity. They are not going to make our things stick onto our pages forever, unfortunately. So what I then do, once I've had my moment creating and not bothering about having to stick single thing down, a glue stick is also good for when you're in the moment, lifting up and sticking back down, and because they're not permanent, so you can keep, it's a repositionable glue. So this is what I do at the end of every journal page. I've already done it on this one. As you can see, there is no residue, there's no shininess, no stickiness. I've actually done about 2 coats on this one, because this had collage that again was going to lift up, like security envelopes and things, and there's no corners to come up or anything with it, so that's all good. And there's washi tape on here, stamps on here, things from my collage sheets, some borders, and the edges are still coming up here. A quote that the edges are coming up again. So this is going to do the job for me, and it is simply clear gesso. This is now my ultimate secret weapon for sealing my journal pages. And another quick tip, do not get any brush strokes in it by just using a card to swipe across your whole surface. You don't need very much across your whole page, but just put it down, and what you can do on things like this is just put a little bit underneath and then go over the top, maybe hold it down. And just, it's going to be noisy because obviously this is going to have a tooth to it. Oh, my thing's a little bit dirty. So as you can see, I've kind of smudged my stuff because it's dirty, but to be honest, that doesn't bother me. If you want to keep a separate one just for your thing and don't use it for paint, then that would be a good idea to do. But you can just get up underneath your collage or things like that and then seal them back in. And it's going to be noisy as I scrape it across because obviously gesso has a natural tooth to it, so you might not like this as a product. You might prefer something that feels like beeswax. I don't mind the grittiness to stick these stamps down. Obviously, over anything that will reactivate with water, say that this was gouache, rather than putting it on the actual gouache and pulling it out, that would reactivate the colour of gouache or something else that's water soluble. What I would do is go from the outside somewhere where the gouache isn't, or you know, water soluble crayon or something like that, and just kind of flick it in towards it, and that would be how I would deal with something that's activated with liquid. So this is what I do. I'm putting probably a little bit more on than what I usually would, just to show you. But this is how I seal my journal pages. Stick the washi down, stick the stamps down, stick the collage sheets and papers in the background. Incidentally, this is how I stuck my paper on in the background down. And these, you can see there's quite a few layers. There's text pages and blah 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 blah, and that's pretty much did a quick glue stick and then just went like that around the edges with a bit of clear gesso, and it really does do the job. And also on a page like this that is really flimsy, it's just an old file folder I'm using. Also, a few layers of this on either side is really going to help reinforce the weight of the paper and really make it more sturdy. So that is my number one tip, but there are all these other things out there that you can try. If you guys have anything that you use, stick it in the description below. We're all here to share. Yeah, and that's it. Hope it helps. Much love, you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.